Hello and welcome to the Thursday, January 8th, 2026 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich, recording today from Jacksonville, Florida. And this episode is brought to you by the SANS.edu Graduate Certificate Program in Incident Response. Today we got another phishing diary from Jan. Jan is writing about actually a set of emails that I've seen coming into our internal handlers alias over the holidays. At first I was a little bit worried of attackers kind of trying some new tricks over the holidays, maybe trying to outrun some of the defenders here, because of course during the holidays many of them may have taken the day off, and people also are less likely to make like big updates to their infrastructure over holidays. Well, the small but significant change here was that QR codes in these emails were actually encoded as an HTML table. So yeah, looks like a QR code. It may be a little bit squished, but of course, QR codes are designed to be rather resilient to like distortions and such like that, because after all, it's the same as pointing your phone on a QR code from likely a little bit an odd angle. That's sort of why they work, even if they aren't really perfect. And a lot of email protection solutions have started looking at QR codes in order to filter out some of these sort of out-of-band attacks where victims are being tricked to then use their local phone to complete the phishing attack, which of course then isn't caught often by enterprise security solutions. So that's the latest trick here. And of course, now I hope that some of the vendors, some of the anti-phishing solutions will add this to their repertoire. And well, let's see what attackers are coming up next. And if you are into phishing, and please include us in your phishing mailing list, so that way we also get copies of whatever you're trying next. And over the last couple of days, there were actually, I think, a total of 4 critical vulnerabilities in n8n. I think some people pronounce it also n8n. That particular tool is geared towards the use of AI agents in order to automate processes. So what on a high level this tool does is it ingests data and then performs actions based on that data. The problem is a lot of the time this data comes from untrusted sources. And while n8n attempts to set up proper sandboxes and such around these processes, well, there are limits to what it can do. And you have sort of the classic issue where the data being ingested from these sources and the code, meaning the prompts for your AI tools, aren't clearly separated from each other. And that, of course, then leads to vulnerabilities like, for example, the uploads of files being used to then execute code in the end. There's been some controversy around these particular vulnerabilities. Not all of them are unauthenticated. This latest one that has been branded an nightmare or nightmare has allowed the code execution without authentication. But then, of course, it always depends on how you exactly configure the tool, who you allow to actually upload data, and where the data is coming from. So what that risk really means to you very much depends on the particular use case that you're employing the tool here at, and certainly something that's easy to sort of condense in a simple number like a CVSS score. Particular, of course, if you're running n8n on-premise, then of course you need to update. If you're using the cloud version, well, they took care of it for you. Then I mention this mostly because, well, I know it's a very popular product. UniFi Protect did release an update that does fix a remote code execution vulnerability. However, an attacker must be located in an adjacent network. It's one of those network discovery protocol vulnerabilities. So these protocols or these packets are usually not routed. That's why you need the adjacent network position here in order to exploit it. Update it, and well, with that also get probably some new features with this product, and it's also relatively easy to enable auto updates for UniFi Protect. Well, and then to close out this podcast today, just a little bit sort of an awareness item. Over the last years and such that I run this podcast, one recurring item has been IoT vulnerabilities. And apparently there is currently sort of a trend, and I've seen this a little bit too, that power banks are gaining more and more features. In part, they are also gaining network connectivity. So these used to be these fairly bland usually black blocks that are essentially just a battery that you can charge and discharge. But now they apparently include Wi-Fi access points, screensavers, and all kinds of other fancy features. That came up in an article at The Verge in part of the CES coverage, which is going on this week, and certainly something to be aware of. And if you are buying devices like this, probably stick with the simple one and only buy features that you actually need. Part of this is also that the price of these devices has gone up quite a bit as they have added these additional features. Well, and that's it for today. So thanks for listening. And we have our first winner for a bug report. Turns out, this week I'm working somewhat on the scripts that are publishing this podcast, trying to sort of get rid of that silence at the beginning and a couple other little things. But, I had to do some testing, and it looks like in some podcast players, one of the test audio files sort of was stuck and didn't get overwritten by the real file that I released later. So sorry for that. And so the first sticker is gone. And if you have any kind of feedback, any bugs, errors, or other things that you found in the podcast, please let me know. And you'll get a sticker in the mail as a reward. Thanks, and talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.